I have a 2-year-old son who is very into ducks, so today we are painting a duck for Sullivan. We'll be using acrylics to paint this waterfowl cutie, and we are taking a real no muss, no fuss approach. All supplies are listed at the end of the video. Here's how we begin. Using a sketchbook, you're going to start with this oval shape that comes to a bit of a point. So you're working out the shape of a body. Then you're going to give your duck a little neck on the left-hand side and follow that up to the round shape of the head. From there, we put a squarish beak where the neck meets the head, and then drop down from that beak, the corner of the beak, and that's where you put the first foot. Come on over and draw another foot, and this one, you'll actually put a little more leg up onto the body, and frankly, I don't even know what shape I made those feet. Once that pencil sketch is done though, grab a fine liner or a Sharpie and we're going to start refining that rather messy duck. So go over everything. Do you like the shape of the beak? Do you like the shape of the feet? You know, my feet were just very random. And then again, we refine further by grabbing some tracing paper. Remember, I've listed all the supplies at the end of the video, and the tracing paper allows you to change what you don't like, keep what you do like. I actually had enough changes I wanted to make that I traced it a second time, continuing the refining process. Although I didn't want to get too fussy because it's just a duck for a kid's playroom. That's where I'm going to hang this masterpiece when it's finished. Want to get a printout of this duck that you can use as a coloring page or traceable, plus the final piece as a print? That is all available for my patrons over on Patreon. It's only $2 a month to join or $22 for the year. Anywho, once you've got that final refined sketch, I actually found if I tilted mine, it looked a little better. But anywho, grab a canvas board. You can get these at the dollar store or at any art store. Mine was a 12 by 16 size, but this would be great on an 8 by 10, 11 by 14. You're going to tape that tracing paper down, grab a piece of carbon transfer paper, and you just trace over it with a sharp pencil one more time. Your duck is now on the canvas and he is ready to paint. Here are the acrylic colors I'm laying down on my palette. I have white, ultramarine blue, and Payne's gray, burnt umber, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre. And then I have some paper towel, glass of clean water, and a whole bunch of brushes. I'm using synthetic brushes, and I'm going to start with a flat brush and some Payne's gray. And we are going to do what is called toning the canvas or tinting the canvas. And we're just going to lay down a single color that we have thinned with water. So I'm using Payne's gray, which is a very bluish gray. My plan for this duck is to paint him on a blue-gray background. So toning this canvas with Payne's gray just makes sense. That way I'm not constantly trying to cover up a white canvas. It gives me a good place to start my painting. And then my final step here was to take a paper towel and just blot so I could really see where that duck is. Now, while you wait for that paint wash to dry, that toning, we can mix up whatever color you want to use for the background. And for me, it was a mix of white, a little bit of Payne's gray, and just a hint of ultramarine blue. We'll use that medium blue-gray color and a flat brush and a messy sort of painterly brush stroke to just fill in the entire background. Should look a little messy, little painterly, as I like to say. I want to see those brush strokes. That's the look I'm going for. Once that's done, it's time to start painting our duck. And so for the duck, we're going to rinse our brush, maybe change the water, and use a flat brush and white paint to start filling in the entire area. Now you may find that you'd like to add a little bit of that yellow ochre to the white to just warm it up slightly and give your duck just that hint of a warm white. We don't want him to look too stark. Once your color is just what you want, all you have to do now is fill in the entire body using that same sort of messy brushstroke approach that we used for the background. If you want to trace this duck in order to paint it, remember to head to Patreon to get the coloring/traceable page. There's no need for you to draw it when you can just print out mine. With the duck looking good, I'll grab a little mix of burnt sienna and yellow ochre. But any orangey yellowy color will do, so whatever you mix up, don't worry too much. I'm using a really small flat brush here, and I'm just filling in those little legs. I still don't know if I got that shape figured out, but you know what? Blobs are okay. This is for a child's bedroom or playroom. it should look a little childish. Think of illustrating a child's book. Realism isn't the main goal here. Fantasy is, whimsy is. With the legs and beak filled in, we're going to make sure the body is actually dry. And then you're going to take just the lightest gray and add a little shading to this duck. I shaded his sort of underside, so, between his legs, a little on his wing. I'm going to do the right-hand side of his neck under his beak. This is white with just a hint of Payne's gray and a hint of that dark brown to warm it up a little bit. If you put too much, I think I sort of overshaded. Come back in with a little of that warm white. Use those messy painterly brush strokes and just work at it until you are happy and you think your duck looks cute and whimsical and funny and weird. One thing I'll say is just don't overdo it on the shading. Don't overdo it and don't overthink it. Once you're happy with it, we will take a little black on a small brush and just fill in that eye. Leave a little highlight if you can, but don't worry about it. And if you don't have black, ultramarine mixed with the burnt umber, that makes a beautiful dark black. Then we'll do just a little bit of shading on the feet. I'm using a mix of yellow ochre and white to add kind of a lighter orangey yellow to mainly the right or the left-hand side of the foot. So putting some highlights on the left, and we're going to do all of our low lights are on the right, or all of our shading is on the right. And then I'm coming in with a darker color here. So this is the yellow ochre mixed with that burnt sienna, mixed with the darker brown. And we're just putting some little triangles of the darker color. And it's looking now like his feet are a little webbed. And you can add a little shading on his beak if you want. It's totally up to you. And then to finalize this duck, we need to add a bit of a shadow. And I am using Payne's gray mixed with that ultramarine blue. And I am just sort of basically the black that I mixed up for the eye. And I'm just kind of putting a little bit underneath him. I hate doing shadows. I hate it, especially if I don't have a reference photo showing me where the shadow falls, which in this case I did not. But I do know that it should be a bit darker underneath him. So I'm just trying to make like a messy blob. You can see me sort of trying to soften it a bit with some paper towel, and then I was like, okay, the shadow's too big, it's out of control. I just took the same color that I used for the background and sort of filled in and reduced the shadow slightly. So that is the nice thing about acrylics, is that you can always, add light over dark. If you're familiar with this channel, I do a lot of watercolors. With watercolor, that's a lot harder to do. So that was a nice element of this that I could fix it up. Speaking of putting light on dark, you can add a little more highlight to his eye, use a little bit of white there, and his whole eye will just sort of come to life at this point. Finish him off with a little more shading, that light warm gray if you feel like he needs it, and your duck is complete. I put my ducky in a thrifted frame, and he is now hanging proudly in Sully's brand new playroom. I hope you enjoyed this acrylic tutorial. This is something very different for me, and I'm really excited to share that with you. Thanks for watching today, friends. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and head over to Patreon for all the bonus content, patreon.com/Shayda Campbell. All right, friends, and here's the supply rundown. Scrap paper or sketchbook, a pencil and fine liner, tracing paper, graphite transfer paper, acrylic paints, a canvas board, clean water paper towel, and a couple flat synthetic brushes. Remember to use the description below to shop all my supplies on Amazon.